You're listening to Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. Our show provides listeners with an insider perspective of Texas A&M athletics and its greatest supporters. This podcast will bring you exclusive interviews with coaches, athletes, donors, and the dedicated staff of Aggie Athletics and the 12th Man Foundation. You ready? Let's dive into today's episode. Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of Answering the Call podcast, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. This is your host, Ivy Robinson, and joining me today in studio is Texas A&M baseball student athlete Kaeden Kent. Kaeden, thanks for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to talk about the 12th Man and what they do for not just me, but for every student athlete here.
Absolutely. I have to say, typically, we record this podcast in the 12th Man Production Studio, but today, actually, we are in the NIL podcast room located at the Adam Season Academic and Wellness Center. Beautiful facility, generously funded by Adam Sen and many 12th Man Foundation donors. In fact, Jonathan Wallace, who's the assistant athletics director for Name, Image, and Likeness, told me this morning that this is the first podcast ever to be recorded in this space. So how do you feel about this, Kaeden?
I feel nervous. I can't mess it up. If I mess it up, nobody's going to come back here.
Yeah, no pressure, right? Well, Kaeden, I'm curious, just to start, let's talk about Blue Bell Park. And you mentioned the support of the 12th Man. I'm curious, what is your favorite tradition at Blue Bell Park, if you had to pick one?
My favorite's the bubbles. It's kind of cool. It's almost like snow, but it's not really snow. But you just see them fly across the whole field, and if it's windy, then they'll push one way, and it makes a cool picture, and when you're seeing it from the dugout, it's pretty special.
I agree. The bubbles are just such a unique tradition, so
Who
unique
thinks
to
of that,
Texas A&M.
too?
I know. I need to do my research and go back and learn about the story, like when it first started. Do you know that?
I have no idea.
But yes, what a cool tradition. The bubbles, super fun. Kaeden, what's something that you think not a lot of people know about yourself? Do you have a unique fact?
Unique fact is I ride motocross. Well, I am the level before beginner. What's that level? So whatever the level before beginner is what I am on a motocross bike. So
awesome. When did you start?
My grandpa rode in California. They lived in California. My grandpa and my dad lived in California, and they rode on the weekends, and my dad just picked it up from him, and I picked it up from my dad. And my grandpa are a lot better riders, and my brother actually rides pretty good too. Sometimes, on school breaks and Thanksgiving break and Christmas break, we go to our ranch and ride motocross around. But other than that, I mean, I'm in no way. I would never call myself
not an expert.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, you mentioned your brother and your dad and grandfather. Can you explain to our listeners, tell us where you're from, your hometown, and tell us a little bit more about your family.
Born in Austin, Texas, and lived there my whole life. And my dad played 17 years in the big leagues, grew up in California, went to school in Cal Berkeley, and then got drafted to the Blue Jays, played for them for a little bit, and traded around the league, and played 17 years in the big leagues, had a great career, and now I'm here. I got two brothers and a sister, and they all played sports growing up, and we were a pretty competitive family just because of what we were around at a young age. It shaped me into who I am today, and I'm extremely grateful for it.
Was baseball the first sport you ever played?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Growing up with a 17-year MLB veteran as your father, Jeff Kent, do you think his career influenced your decision to pursue baseball on a collegiate level?
I think the idea of what he accomplished and all the accolades that he collected was something that was appealing to me, but I would never say that he pushed baseball on me. I would just say that I wanted to be like him. Looking up to him, I still look up to him and the things that he accomplished and how hard he worked, and I still see it. I just really looked up to him, and being the competitive family that we were raised in, I wanted to beat him. I wanted to be better than him. So that's my drive, and that's why I play this game.
Mm-hmm. Competitive family.
Yeah.
Do you have any childhood memories of like you competing with your siblings or?
I mean, I have a few of them, yeah. I have one We were playing basketball or something upstairs, indoor, before we were too big for my mom to say no more ball in the house. We were playing basketball and I lost, and I saw a Nerf gun on the ground. I just chucked it at my brother.
Oh,
And
no.
he ducked, and it hit the wall, big old hole in the wall. And I heard that. Jeez, that was a bad experience. Never
Oh,
did that one
man.
again.
What's your earliest memory of playing baseball, maybe with your brothers or with your father?
My earliest memory, I was a bat boy for my brother's teams. So my two brothers played together. They were similar in age, about a year apart. So they played together, and I was the bat boy. And my dad was the coach of that team. And that was pretty cool looking back on it, as, all my brothers and my dad playing on the same team. I wasn't playing, but I was in the dugout with them, and that's a pretty cool experience that I got to go through, just being with my family, playing the game that we all love. I just remember all the times in the cages. He was a coach for my team when I was old enough to play travel ball. But those experiences, the best ones that I have looking back are the ones of him and I in the cage throwing BP to me. And sometimes still we argue back and forth about swing mechanics and how the game went. And I got a big ego and he's got a big ego, so we butt heads quite a bit. But it's fun. I love it. And he loves talking about the game, and I love talking about the game. And I'm super grateful that I can call him my dad and all the information and coaching advice that he gives me.
That's awesome. I have one more question about your dad. You said you look up to him, not only from a baseball perspective, but even more just as an individual. What are some of the characteristics and qualities about your dad that have really shaped who you are today? And what have you learned from him throughout the years?
I think his discipline to, finish what he started. When he starts a project or work or whatever it is, whether it was baseball and staying in the cage until you fix something that was a problem, working on a car in the garage on a Saturday afternoon, and he's not going to be done until he finishes what he was trying to do. So I think that's an aspect that I really look up to, and the fact that that's not easy to do. People say finish what you started, and yeah, but I don't think people understand or really can attribute the magnitude of how great that is. Truly finishing what you started, and whether it's certain projects or something around the house, it's the little things that kind of build on top of each other. And I think that could be attributed to the success that he had and the way that he played the game.
I love what you said there, like just the art of finishing what you started, right? And following through until the end. There's something really valuable about that.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
It's easy to quit, but I mean, you could even say, many of your teammates, y'all came back this season to finish what y'all have started.
Yeah,
So
how about that?
I love that. Going back to your journey, let's talk about your path to Texas A&M and your recruitment process. Can you tell our listeners about what that was like?
I was recruited under Coach Seeley and Coach Childress before Schlossnagel and company came in. To be honest with you, I wasn't even a good prospect out of high school. I didn't have a lot of interest from schools. I played for the local College Station Texas 12 program, summer ball team, and that caught some eyes, I guess, because I was a part of, they had a really good organization at the time. They still do. So honestly, I would attribute me coming to A&M because I played at Texas 12. Anyway, they offered me a scholarship to come here, so I said yes, and then a year later, Schlossnagel got hired, and him and Nolan Kane and Mike Early kept up with the recruiting process and still wanted me to come to school, so I stuck with them, and that's how I got here.
Okay, Texas 12 program. Were there any influential coaches or people in that program that really contributed to your development as a player?
All the coaches there were great. Shoot, Bronny was there. Brian Browninger over at Texags was working there, and I would practice here in College Station, so I'd make the drive from Austin to College Station, doing my homework on my lap on a Wednesday night or Tuesday night or whenever. But Bronny was there, Kevin Hodge, Trevor Moat. I can name a lot of guys, but they run a really good program over there, and I'm super grateful that they let me play on their team.
Was Texas A&M always a strong contender throughout the recruitment process, or did you have a difficult decision?
No, I didn't even know what Texas A&M was until I was 16. I just know I never liked Austin. Can I say that? I hated downtown Austin. So I live like 30 minutes west of Austin, the downtown area. So anyway, I never wanted to go to Austin. I kind of wanted to go to the West Coast because that's where my family was from. So Arizona was a good school at the time. They always have a good baseball program. I wanted to go to Stanford until I realized I had to be smart out of my mind. So anyway, I got a call from Sealy, and he said that he liked me as a player and he'd continue a relationship, and hung up the phone and looked up A&M on the internet, and I saw the pictures of the crowds at the baseball stadium. I said, I haven't seen that on the West Coast. And I mean, I saw the layout of the university and how big it is and spread out. And I like that about the university, how it's spread out. And there's some wiggle room here. So I really like that. And like I said, I wasn't highly recruited. So A&M was kind of an easy option. And I'm just so happy that I chose this place, and so happy that I got the opportunity to stay here after last year.
You mentioned crowds and then also like balancing demands of being both a student and an athlete. And I want to come back to that. But really quick, what was the transition like coming from high school into Texas A&M? Were there any challenges you experienced that freshman year, whether it was on the baseball field or in school?
I think one of the biggest challenges, you go from being the best player on your high school baseball team as a senior and kind of a leader of the team into a place like here, like A&M, where Trevor Werner was here, Jack Moss was here, Austin Boast, Brett Minnick. All these guys have the credibility to say, you're not doing things the right way and you need to be better and things of that nature. They were true leaders. So me being just the way that my mind works when I'm around the baseball field, I don't want to say I didn't have it with those guys, but like I looked up to them in a way that they were leaders and I wanted to be like them. So I kind of pushed back. I kind of said, well, why can't I be like them? And why can't I, say these things to you? And looking back on it now, as I'm a junior here now, and looking back on it, if me as a junior, if I saw myself as a freshman, we wouldn't get along just based on the things that I've learned and what I've seen now and all that. But it was a maturing phase that I had to go through, and shutting my mouth when I needed it to be shut, and just being smart with the things that I said and how I interacted with people when I didn't have that credibility.
Mm-hmm. Going back to when you're recruited to Texas A&M, you didn't know much about Texas A&M. When you got here first as a student athlete, what were your first impressions of the school and just adjusting to the culture of Aggieland?
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I was really exposed to it the first fall game that we had. The freshmen come in the summertime, and there's almost nobody on campus, which I loved. I don't like big crowds. So I loved that, and getting acclimated with the university was super fun. And then in the fall, sometime in October, we played our first fall game, and the crowd there was amazing. And I got to be under it for the first time and really experience it. And I say this a lot on interviews and stuff like that, but the magnitude of playing under good fans, good baseball fans, and how fun it makes the game is indescribable. It's hard for me to try to explain the feeling that I have to other people about playing under great fans, great baseball fans, and we have that here, and it just makes the game so much more fun.
I want to come back to that and just the atmosphere of Blue Ball Park in general, but what are you studying at Texas A&M? What's your major?
It's been like 4 different ones, I think.
I should say majors.
I started in architecture my freshman year, and then I realized that my schedule was too heavy because I wanted to be at the field all the time. If I have class, I'll go to class, but we lift in the morning, and then I go to class, and then I come back to the field, and I'm at the field until dark. So I'm a guy who's at the field all the time, and I wanted that. So with the architecture major, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do that. So I switched into finance, and at the time, I didn't, truly know what I really wanted to do other than baseball. So I switched into a finance major, and I needed like a 3.5 to get into Mays, and I had like a 3.4, I think. So I didn't get in. So I switched to agriculture economics, and I realized that I have to take 2 math courses, accounting and a math course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, no way in heck am I going to do that. With the season on top of it, I took a math course my freshman year, and it blew me out of the water. So then I switched. So then I'm like, all right, Mindy, our academic advisor, Mindy Phillips, is awesome. I love her. She helps us out a ton. So
Ryan Prager, we had him on this podcast, and he mentioned Mindy too, how she's just an incredible help and resource for all of y'all.
Yeah, she is. So I told her, I said, ain't no way I'm doing that. So she said, all right, well, we'll switch you into ag leadership. Okay. So I'm in ag leadership now.
Nice.
And I'm not taking the 2 math courses that I had to take.
The maths here at Texas A&M, it's no joke. Really,
Yeah,
really.
seriously, it's not.
How do you balance when you're in season the demands of class and being at the field?
The resources that we have are super great for doing that. It's almost like when I'm home, I just want to be home and watch TV and go to bed, or hang out with my roommates and go to bed. So the fact that we have this building that we're in right now, the Sin Center, and the little we're in a room right now that kind of looks like one of the little pods that we have to study in. So last year in the fall, I was taking an economic class that was kicking my butt, and I would come up here and study and do homework all the time because, yes, there's a time management aspect of it, but it's so easy to kind of lock into what you're doing when everybody around you is doing the same thing. Because everybody around in this building, in the academic center, is studying and doing their work. So when you come up here, it's a fun environment, but people aren't lollygagging and messing around. They're getting their work done. And because of that, I was able to manage my time, and I'm sure it'll be the same for the spring.
What is your message to 12-Man Foundation donors, people who give back to create spaces and facilities like this very building we're talking about? What is your message to those people who generously contribute and give back because they want Aggie student athletes to have the absolute best and want to see them succeed both in the classroom and competition and in their careers beyond?
I wish I could thank every one of them individually because of how special it is and their donation to us. Before I was an Aggie, I didn't know about the tradition and the family that you come into when you are an Aggie. The outreach that we have and the generosity is amazing, and it's the reason why I'm successful. Without the resources that I have and without the resources that we as student athletes have, it would make it a lot harder to go through the season and stay on top of classes and scheduling and all that. I'm super grateful for what we have.
Kaeden, you're also, I believe, a 1922 Fund scholarship recipient, and that scholarship opportunity was provided through an endowment that's made possible by the 12-Man Foundation and our donors. How did it feel to receive that scholarship and the opportunity to come here and get a great degree from a world-renowned university while also playing the game of baseball?
Super special. I mean, it's all a part of the journey, and for it to be funded through the 12th Man Foundation and the people who donate to that is, I mean, I can't describe it in words how grateful I am for that and how much easier it's made my life.
Let's reminisce a little bit and go back to the Oregon Super Regional last year. Talk us through that legendary moment in the 2024 Super Regional against Oregon and hitting a grand slam. What was going through your mind when you were at bat in that moment?
I haven't got that question in a while, actually. So I come up to the plate and bases are loaded, and I think we're up by 1 at the time. But in my head, we're already winning the game. So I didn't really feel a lot of pressure on myself, to be honest. But anyway, I go up to the plate, and I got in the lineup because Brayton got hurt. And that was so unfortunate. But that's why I was playing at the time. So I was thinking in my head, I better perform well so I can play the next game.
Yeah, like prove your
Yeah.
value here.
Yeah. So anyway, I go up to the plate, and then I realized the situation, and what I just said was all leading up to the at-bat. So when I got up to the plate and the runner's on base, and I was just trying to hit a single to drive a run in, and I remember going through the at-bat, and he was throwing me a lot of fastballs, and he threw me a fastball that almost hit me, and I swung at it. And looking back at the video, the replay of the whole at-bat, I don't know what I was thinking swinging at that ball. That was like way in. That was kind of crazy that I swung at that. And then he threw me the slider, and I fouled it off. And in that moment, I kind of relaxed a little bit because, when you go into an at-bat, the pitcher has a certain number of pitches or whatever he throws. And if you only see one pitch, you're kind of thinking in the back of your mind, well, what if his other pitch is really good? So anyway, he threw me the slider. I fouled it off. And in my head, I was thinking that wasn't all that great of a pitch. So I kind of relaxed a little bit, and I took a big deep breath and slowed my emotions down and my brain down. And the next pitch he threw me was a fastball down the middle and caught it out front, hit it over the fence. And I wish I could go back and relive that moment with the fans and the loudness of the stadium. And the joy that I felt after. When I was running the bases, I didn't really show a lot of emotion. But when I got back into the dugout, the joy that I felt and all the hard work that I've been doing was paid off in that moment. It was pretty special, and what made it even better was the people that I got to celebrate it with, as in my teammates and as in the fans that were there.
Do you remember what your teammates told you when you crossed home plate after that moment? Or like what they said to you back in the dugout?
No, I can't hear. You literally could not hear. I was running the bases and doing the whatever signs to the bullpen, and Nolan Kane, our third base coach at the time, was jumping up and down. That was funny. I remember looking at him, I almost started laughing. And then I got, everybody circles around home plate and does the headbutt thing, and everybody's just screaming. And there's a picture of me running back to the dugout, my mouth wide open, just screaming as loud as I could, and just all the emotions and all the joy and happiness, and you're just pumped up. It was super special.
Let's talk about head coach Michael Early. How has he impacted you both as a player, now as head coach, and how do you think he's even impacted you as a person?
This university is great, and if I wasn't playing baseball, I would 100% want to come to this university and be here academically. When I got in the portal after the end of last year, and very unlikely that I was going to come back unless Mike got hired, because of the type of person that he is and the type of coach that I know he is. And when you have a head coach, it's hard to not be intimidating to the players. When you have a speck of doubt in your head as a player, thinking, I better please the head coach, or I hope I perform well because the head coach is watching me. It's hard to play the game like that. It's extremely hard to play baseball like that. So Mike has a balance of being a heavy voice when he needs to, but also understanding the game of baseball and the fact that it's a failing game, and he knows that people are going to make mistakes and fail. So the way that he goes about coaching and interacting with players is something that if I'm a coach one day, I would probably model his coaching style. It's easy to play for him because he doesn't expect too much of you because he knows that it's a failing game. But at the same time, if you're underperforming and your effort's down and the intangibles that you can control, if those are down, then he makes sure to address that. But I can't think of anybody else that I'd rather play for than Mike, and because of what he does for his players and what he's done for me.
It's interesting you mentioned like the positivity aspect about Mike, because other baseball players we've had on this podcast touched on that he loves routine, right? And he's very positive. And so how do you think those qualities have enhanced the baseball program?
I think they've enhanced the fact that there's a certain way that hitters and pitchers need to go about their business, as in you don't need a coach to tell you come to the field at 11 to hit till 12, to practice at 12:30, to take ground balls at 1. He's enhanced the fact that it's a team sport, but it's individual in the fact that you get your work in on your own. So, basketball is a team sport, and you work together in the fact that you pass the ball to your teammate and your teammate scores, or you have to be in a certain spot for your teammate to be open, or whatever the heck that is. I'm not a basketball player. But in baseball, it's your at-bat, or it's your defensive play that you need to make, or it's your pitch that you need to make. So Mike has emphasized the fact that you need to handle your own business, and you need to be prepared the way you feel like you need to. And if you're not, it's going to show up in the games that we play, and if you're underperforming, you're not going to play because of the talent that we have on the team. So Mike doesn't breathe down your neck. He lets you be your own player, and it's hard to explain, but the precision that he goes about his routine at kind of makes you want to do the same. Does that make sense? I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. But, being in the cage and the routines that you do in the cage and the routines that you do day to day on the baseball field, he's definitely made it a point to say, take care of your own business, be the most prepared you can be, and things will fall into place.
Staying on that note of kind of this whole individualized, like taking care of your business, like academics, what you've got going on, whether it's on the field or in the classroom, let's talk about NIL and how college athletes today are living in this new era with name, image, and likeness. How has NIL personally impacted your student-athlete experience here at Texas A&M? What has it taught you, and what opportunities has it provided for you?
Well, shoot, it's made my life a whole lot easier, I'll tell you that. It's provided a sense of security and less stress as college students or college athletes. It's hard to manage the finances of the things that you spend money on, and along with the tuition that you pay and the fees and the books and everything that goes into living on your own in college. I mean, it's just made my life a whole lot easier in the fact that I don't need to worry about the finances, because I know that there are people so generous to take care of myself and the other student athletes around here, and it relieves a lot of pressure and allows myself to focus on the work and to focus on the game of baseball.
And what would you tell those people who are listening right now who support NIL opportunities, whether it's through Texas Aggies United or contributing to the 12 Man Foundation's annual fund? What is your message to those people who are supporting those initiatives?
My message to them is it doesn't go unnoticed and it doesn't get wasted, I'd say. The magnitude of the donation that you guys have given to myself and given to my teammates and all the student athletes here, it's hard to put into words how grateful that I am and how much it's helped me and how much it wants me to help the next generation of Aggies.
And thinking about this 2025 baseball season, how would you describe the camaraderie between your teammates? And if you could pick one word to describe this team this year, what would it be?
One word? That's not fair. I would say fun, but that's boring. I don't know. I mean, I can't describe it in one word. The chemistry that you saw in Omaha and how much fun we had playing with each other, it didn't miss a beat coming on to this season. It hasn't missed a beat, and the friendship that we have, and it's kind of crazy because I guess it's not crazy because we're around everybody every day. We're around the whole team every day, and we hang out with each other outside of the game, and we hang out with each other in the locker room, and the banter back and forth is fun and funny and light, but we also get our work done when we need to get it done. And I think it's going to be special, and this season's going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited to get going.
And finally, Kaeden, to wrap up this episode today, why are you proud to be an Aggie and represent Texas A&M University?
I'm proud to be an Aggie because of the loyalty that we have at this university and the amount of people who give back to the university because of what the university did for them. Texas A&M has changed my life for the better, and I'm extremely grateful that I have the opportunity to be here and to come here and go through the experiences that I went through and all the people who have helped me and allowed me to be here. And
then beyond your time at Texas A&M, walk us through your future goals and where you see yourself headed in this life. Well, it'd be really sick if I got to ride motocross for the rest of my life. But after this year, I hope to get drafted, and hopefully this year goes well, and that's the case, and start my lifelong dream of being a Major League Baseball player and beating my dad. I'm coming for you, man. You can leave that on. Watch out, Jeff. Kaeden Kent on Answering the Call podcast. Kaeden, thank you again for being here today. Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. A special shout out to our incredible podcast producer, Megan Hoffman, to 12th Man Productions and Texas A&M Athletics NIL Department. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to every donor and season ticket holder for always answering the call through loyal support of Texas A&M Athletics and our student athletes. We will be back soon with more content. Thanks, and gig 'em.